By my calculations, this Friday, May 1st, will mark 40 days since Governor Inslee decreed the stay-at-home order that stopped us on a dime, a quarantine for the common good. I'm heartened by this prevailing sense of mutuality that has led us all to embrace this constraint on our freedom for the good of the whole, even if at times it has been bewildering, scary, or frustrating. The New Yorker published an essay earlier this month tracing the historic threads of various pandemics and how they changed the face of civilization in ways both devastating and transformational. Crucible moments are like that. They bring both good and bad. We're seeing this inexorable reality play out once more, even as we remain uncertain about so many details. When will we reopen? How will the virus behave as warmer weather comes? What will happen with our economy? Why is a vaccine so difficult to develop? The questions linger, with lots of folks opining, but no clear-cut answers just yet. We are being asked to be patient still, and that is difficult. The word quarantine comes from the Latin meaning 40, drawing on the biblically important number of 40. 40 years for the Israelites to roam in the wilderness, 40 days from the birth of Jesus to his presentation in the temple, 40 days for Jesus to wrestle with his spiritual demons in the desert. As is the case with much of Scripture, the number 40 may not be meant to be taken literally. It simply conveys the sense of a long time, or the fullness of time, for the work at hand to be accomplished. By the 14th century, with the bubonic plague sweeping across Europe, the practice of quarantine became codified. An area struck with illness would be closed and cut off for 40 days. That number was chosen for its biblical import, not from any scientific knowledge of a certain bacterium wreaking lethal havoc. But scientific observation was at play nevertheless, because there was observed clear benefit and sparing of life for those communities which quarantined. In that case, 40 days was usually sufficient for the bubonic curve to be flattened. The term quarantine has found its way into our lexicon, and so we speak of quarantine today, even if we don't mean exactly 40 days. My friends, let's be clear, we don't mean exactly 40 days. We mean, in the biblical sense, the length of time necessary for the work at hand to be accomplished, which is to break the cycle of disease spread for the common good. We will reopen in the fullness of time, a metaphorical 40 days, and so we wait still, and the invitation is one of practicing patience. A century ago, Seattle's Mayor Ole Hansen closed down the city in the fall and winter of 1918 as the so-called Spanish flu pandemic came roaring back, presumably because our nation did not sufficiently impede the spread of the virus earlier that year. Here's a photo of a page from the St. Mark's burial register from that time. Note in the fifth column over that the cause of death for many is listed as influenza or pneumonia. These were people who lived down your street, who sat in the fourth pew on the left every Sunday, who served in altar guild, who worked at your favorite restaurant. We have a century of modern medicine and public health advances under our belt since that pandemic swept across the globe, and I am grateful for the care our health professionals are providing today. I share this somber story of 1918 and the sobering photo of our burial register not to scare anyone, but because the historical lesson is instructive for us today, and because we are committed to seeing this through, and for the common good. We have decisions ahead of us, and we won't have all the information at our disposal to be certain that they will be correct ones. Timing of reopening of the cathedral, gathering in fellowship, exchanging the peace, sharing communion, baptizing little ones. We all long for these incarnate ways of being community, and yet And yet we do not want St. Mark's Cathedral to be complicit in the new spike of COVID-19 cases that may come. I've conferred with vestry and staff leaders about all this, and we are of one mind. We prefer to be cautious for your sake, for the sake of every member of this beautiful community, for the sake of everyone in our global household. So please know, we will not be one of the first churches to open. We won't probably even be in the first wave of churches to reopen. We will take our cues from the public health officials who have guided us so well thus far. We have developed plans and precautions for when we do reopen to minimize risk as much as possible. And indeed, we already practice many of these for those who are present in the building for the live streaming of worship services. This is our 40-day quarantine, whatever length of time that comes to mean for us. It will be the fullness of time for our work to be accomplished. It is our work at hand for the common good. I share these thoughts now with hope that the message might frame expectations with that common good in mind, with hope that we can find that gift of patience as we continue caring for one another, and with a fervent hope that this community of St. Mark's Cathedral will press on in its mission with all deliberation, because the church building is closed. The church is open, alive, and thriving.